What's up, everybody? Welcome to podcast now. I'm Alex. In this video, I want to talk about this Last of Us HBO show news and talk about what we can expect, or at least my thoughts on this show leading into it. So this was pretty big, I'd say massive news in terms of, video game and just entertainment, right, from television. I think this is a much better idea, doing a TV show version of this instead of the movie. A word on the street seems to be that this is replacing. I think that was actually confirmed, right, that there was going to be a movie, that has been the plan for a long time, but this is replacing it. So this is the plan now. Neil Druckmann's heavy involvement, both like co-writing, and he's going to be writing it with them, as well as being an executive producer. They have a producer from Game of Thrones coming in. Obviously, we have from Chernobyl coming in to direct it. So there's a lot of moving parts here, and it sounds actually really, really good. Now, there's, in my opinion, for something like this, a situation like this, there's always things to be worried about. I think there's always reason to be a little bit worried. We don't want them messing too much with our, the memories we have, or just a fantastic game in general. But the fact that Neil Druckmann is such a huge part of this makes me very, they seem to have, and I think there's even talks of like Evan Wells or whatever his name is from Naughty Dog. They're getting a lot of people that actually worked on this game, or that are a big part of Naughty Dog, to be part of this project. So it's something that, you think of fan service, you think of what Sonic has done, you think, you've heard Neil Druckmann. I remember seeing Neil Druckmann in the past say multiple times, like with this movie, people have approached him and said like, hey, what's happened with it? And he said, hey, I want them to talk to us. I want to be a part of it, but nobody has ever talked to us, right? Or they were at first, and things sounded good, and then they just never came back. So stuff like that was very worrisome. But this isn't like just an adaptation. Tyler had a really good way of saying that when we were texting back and forth. He was like, this isn't just an adaptation. This is literally like The Last of Us on TV show, because you have all of the people that helped make it real the first time, making it real here. Now, I actually had already recorded this video. I recorded this video back when this news was first breaking, and I didn't get all the info, so I wanted to re-record it for like the newer stuff, which is again some of the new people coming in. But also one very important thing, in the first time I recorded this, I was wondering, like, is it because they talk about how he's such a big fan of Neil's work in general, and how he's ready to adapt his world. And I was saying, well, does that mean that it's gonna be Joel and Ellie? Well, Neil Druckmann tweeted out that said, Joel and Ellie are coming to HBO. So it certainly seems like, I don't know if it's necessarily 1000% been confirmed, but that by that tweet standards, it sounds like, no, this is literally Joel and Ellie from the game into a TV show. Now the question would be, when would it be taking place? Is it taking place with The Last of Us 1, and then maybe that's a season or 2 seasons, and then that goes into The Last of Us Part 2? How exactly do you do it? That is because that is a question. Right when that news first broke, my biggest question was, okay, is this going to be, because The Last of Us is the world, right? It's literally, the entire premise of it. It doesn't have to rest on Joel and Ellie. It does. I think they made a really good decision by doing that. And again, one thing I guess you should be a little concerned about, one thing that I am kind of, wary of, is you run, and I said this in the beginning of this video, you run into some problems really either way you go. It's a sticky situation, because if you pick your own things, right? If you pick the world of The Last of Us, but you don't nail yourself down to those characters, you can find good things and bad things in that, right? Because maybe you completely mess it up. Maybe you show that, hey, you just can't do it without Joel and Ellie, and then you really put the property of The Last of Us on their backs, where it's like, it really isn't much without these characters, and maybe it isn't, and we won't find out now, but that is something you would consider. But then at the same time, if you pick Joel and Ellie, and you're doing a one-for-one adaptation of the game to a TV show, or to a movie, like say with Uncharted, how it's a prequel to the movies, or a prequel to the games, it's leading up to the games, but it's going to respect the game, stuff like that. But for this Last of Us, if you're going to choose Joel and Ellie, you got to make the right decisions. And are you going to literally do a one-for-one? Are you going to take liberties? But the good thing, and I'm saying all of that, a thing to remember, and it's not like I've forgotten it, so don't accuse me that I've forgotten this, is we're in a much better situation with all of that because of Neil Druckmann. Okay, we really are. Because if it's an adaptation just HBO. If HBO just decides we're going to do a Last of Us show, and this is all part of Sony's initiative, by the way, to make these things happen. Remember, they announced a Twisted Metal show. They're doing The Last of Us now, and they're going to do many more of these in the future. But if it was just HBO saying, hey, we acquired the license, or like we agreed with Sony to do something, we're just going to make it, and we're hiring this writer, this director, this producer. None of them are connected to Naughty Dog, and we're going to make it. And we're going to have Joel and Ellie, or we're not going to have Joel. Either way, the problem you run into is, again, how much liberties do you take, and do you mess things up, and do you disrespect the fan base? At least now, yes, now you're taking them from a video game world to a human world, which is a huge, huge step. And there's even with Neil, I'm not saying because they have Neil Druckmann, this is assured to be good. But having him doesn't hurt. In fact, it helps majorly. It's just will it assure it being a really, really good thing? That's obviously, still debatable. We don't know enough about it to talk about that. But having him there definitely lessens the concern from me, right? So I'm really, really excited. It's something that's totally, totally cool that's happening. There's really nothing out on a synopsis, on a story, on characters besides them. But there's no casting, nothing like that. So in my own opinion, in terms of what you can expect, I really don't think we'll be seeing this show until at the earliest, late 2021. I feel like the fall of 2021 at the earliest, if not 2022. HBO, it's a long game, right? It's absolutely a long game with HBO, and so I don't think we'll be seeing it for quite a while, at least a year and a half away. But still fine, because again, we still have to figure out who we're going to play these characters, and we're going to do that in an upcoming video very, very shortly. We'll talk about who are our picks to play both those characters, and if we want to do Tommy, if we want to do other people, we could do that as well. Let me know in the comments, guys, if you want to see that. I'm probably going to make it anyway, but let me know if you guys would support something like that, because I definitely would like to do something like that. It's a very, very exciting time. We're getting, again, the fan service thing with Sonic is working, or has worked really, really well. The Uncharted movie, there's some things there, but for the most part, they seem to be respectful of the source material. Things are looking good there, and now we have this, an HBO show. HBO, that's no slouch, right? It's not like it's going on. I don't want to diss any people. It's not like it's the CW, right? This is high production. This is a big, it would have been a big deal if it was on CW anyway, any channel or any network whatsoever, but HBO, big, this is a big time thing, and this is, I was not expecting this to happen on just a random Thursday, right? Very, very awesome that we get to hear about it. So I would predict it would seem like it's going to be Last of Us 1 time period. If you're going to have Joel and Ellie, unless you do an in-between between Last of Us 1 and 2, I guess that's the only way you'd be doing an adaptation that's not one for one. If you don't want to do Last of Us 1 and you don't want to do Last of Us Part 2, you could always do that in-between period of what but the problem is the second game may show that or may talk about that a little bit. So, and that comes out in May. Maybe that would help them, right? Because maybe we get teases of what happened in between 1 and 2 in Last of Us Part 2, and then the TV show fills us in. But then it's do we really care about that period of time as much as the other periods of time? There are still definitely some questions, and by no means is this assured to be an amazing thing. Me personally, just talking to me, I'm very sensitive when it comes to these kind of things. I don't want my Uncharted is my favorite franchise. The Last of Us is one of my favorite games ever, and it's also one of my favorite franchises. I adore The Last of Us. So it's much the same situation. If you guys have watched my Uncharted videos, it's pretty much the same situation where it's all right, you can touch it, and the fact that Neil Druckmann's part of it, it's all right, well, it is his creation, so you're on the right path, and it's not like it's mine, but it's our experiences. We're the ones who made it. They made it, they created it, but we bought it. We made it popular, we made it successful, and there are memories with it, right? There's a reason why people like the game, the first one at least, right, and Left Behind, and I don't want that tampered with, basically, if you were to adapt into a TV show or movie. So I'm just hoping, again, that's just why I'm sensitive. It's I want it to be so good. In a perfect world, I probably wouldn't want any of them, Like, don't make a movie or TV show for Uncharted. Don't make a movie or TV show for The Last of Us. Just leave them how they are. But if you're going to do it, I am going to be more sensitive, but I will support it if it does well or if I like it. But it's just, you're on a little bit like sharper glass with me just to start with, basically automatically. So guys, let me know in the comments below, what do you think? Are you excited for this TV show? When do you think it would release? Who would you cast as these characters? And again, would you like to see us talk more about this show? We absolutely could on this channel as we go forward. And obviously, as it gets closer and closer, when we get news, when we get anything like that, and leading into the show, we will absolutely cover it on the channel. We'll dedicate quite a bit to that show for sure. So thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you guys are subscribed and have that bell icon rung so you know when these videos come out. And I hope to see you all on the next one.